Welcome to the Library of Humanity. Something I want to mention today is that truth and purpose and true existence cannot be spoken of. And so our words are only imitations or stories about what's really happening. And our words make us humans feel really good about ourselves, makes our emotions feel good. It helps us connect with other people. We tend to agree on what like a word means, even though that's actually not true, because how can I know if my idea of red or my seeing of red is the same as your red? Another thing is, so for example, I'm looking at this globe, right? And what is the difference between this globe and the actual Earth, right? This thing is nothing. This is just a piece of like metal or something, right? The Earth is existing. It's just the Earth, right? There's a huge difference between a globe and the actual Earth, like actual. Okay, so for example, think of the word hand. Okay, what pops in your mind is an image. But now just look at either my hand or your hand, right? Just look at it and don't think. Don't think about the word hand. Just observe handness, or it's handing, right? It's actual, right? So just look at life as it's happening. So if you take a walk like I did today for 3 hours, I was just looking at the plants, and I realized that these plants aren't actually an idea of plants. So we say plants as an idea to communicate something useful to humans. But when you're just walking in the woods and your mind is quieting down, it's just existence. It's just consciousness. It's pure awareness. It's oneness, right? So that's what I mean is when you want to continue becoming happier and happier, wiser and wiser in life, is seeing that what things are is not what you interpret them to be, okay, or what you want them to be, right? For again, this globe is not Earth, right? This globe doesn't mean anything to a dog, right? If you think about it, a dog would just like sniff it and walk away. They have no idea that for us humans, that a globe equals Earth, right? But think about that there's so many different globes out there. There's only one Earth, but there's like millions or maybe even a billion globes or even maps out there, right? Even Google Earth. If you go on Google Earth, it's like a combination of like billions of photos of Earth, but then they make it into like this very beautiful globe or map, but that's not what the Earth is, right? The Earth just, if you take away the word Earth, then you can get close to it, right? Like in art, if you see a painting, right, it's actually deeper if you don't read the description of the painting. You literally just go to an art museum, you look at the first painting, and don't read anything about it. Just observe it. And its beauty is emanating, and it's mysterious, it's mystery. And that's exactly how life works, right? If you just look at like your laptop for a second, and you're just like, wow, like what is this? It's not a laptop. Like laptop is just an idea in my mind, right? And this goes even deeper and deeper. Now, the ultimate thing that a lot of people get confused with is consciousness. Now, consciousness is not consciousness. What I mean by that is like consciousness is, it just is. So consciousness just is, but it is all that is. It's not just that like consciousness is this floor that everything else is standing on or everything else is sitting on. No, it's like consciousness it just is, and it is everything. It's just consciousness. This microphone is consciousness, right? It looks like a microphone because we were taught that it is a microphone. But microphoneism is an idea, right? There are millions of other microphones, right? So what makes this the same as all the other ones, right? What if it stops working, right? What if it breaks? It's a broken microphone? Is it still a microphone, right? What if I throw it in the garbage in a million pieces? Now it's garbage. It's not a microphone, right? But you could argue it's the same thing, right? If I just break it up Or of a chair. If I just like break up the chair in a million pieces, is it still a chair? It's like the same thing, has the same atoms, has the same like dead cells. I'm not a biologist, obviously. But what makes it different is now it's called garbage or dust or something like that. It's no longer a chair, right? So this thing like chair is just an idea that we have. Chairs don't actually exist. It's just consciousness, right? And the best way to describe consciousness is just to like kind of clap or just to breathe without thinking about the idea of breathing or breath. It's just or even a thought, right? Like a thought is made of consciousness or is consciousness. Okay. Lastly, our idea of consciousness is not consciousness. That's what I mean that consciousness is not consciousness. Okay, so a big mistake a lot of people make is they talk about consciousness as if we all agree on what that is. Also, if you have consciousness as an idea, it's either on or off, right? And as humans, most humans, our minds are just going, and we get distracted. And most of the time, we're not thinking about what is consciousness, right? Most of the time, we're thinking about other things like surviving, having fun, going to work. We don't think about consciousness very much. And that's just that's what I mean by consciousness is just an idea. Because when you're not thinking about it, when you're not thinking about consciousness, what is happening, right? Consciousness is still existing, you're just not thinking about it. Even when you are dreaming, consciousness is still like what the dream is happening inside of, right? It's awareness, it's consciousness, it's being. But what about when the dream is done and you're actually like in between dreams, when you're in a dreamless sleep, when it just seems like nothing at all is happening? Now, what is the difference between that nothingness and consciousness? Is it the same thing, right? What I'm saying is yes, that consciousness is the foundation, and there can either be things happening or nothing happening, right? So consciousness is impossible to not exist. Actually, existence is equal to consciousness. So if you think about existence, it always exists, right? That's the same as consciousness. But nothingness is like this realm that we can enter into if we are really in tuned with meditation, or if we're just in a dreamless sleep. However, we're not aware of the nothingness until you're really awakened, when you are aware that you're in dreamless sleep. Now, that's possible. I'm telling you that it's possible. I've never experienced it myself, but I've heard of people who experience that. It's not thinking, right? It has nothing to do with the brain. It's awareness of awareness, or it's awareness of nothingness. You see how this is really, really strange, and our human brain cannot understand that you can be aware of awareness itself. You can be aware of nothingness. It's just that we're so used to our minds working and using our minds to have thoughts about something. So like nothingness for you is just a thought. It's not something that you're actually aware of, because you're only aware of objects, thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions, right? As Rupert Spira says. I've never experienced something that's not a thought, perception, or a feeling. Even in my deepest experiences, I've experienced nothingness, but it's always through a lens of humanness. It's always through a lens of like my ego, or a lens through ideas, right? Like it's like I'm aware, like this is nothingness. It's like I'm reminding myself this is nothingness, or I'm reminding myself that, okay, I want to know what I am. So I go into using self-inquiry method. I go into the who am I, right? What is this consciousness? What is this awareness? Who is this thing that's in this body, right? Even when you're doing that, you're using your mind to try to find yourself, right? You're using your mind to try to find your mind. So it's really, really impossible, actually, if you're not constantly practicing so much that you become extremely aware or self-actualized. Consciousness just is. Okay, there's nothing else I can say. It's just, it always is. And it's even greater than the moment, because the moment has to do with time, and time is only a part of reality. Consciousness is what is. So what are you? You have to be consciousness too, because consciousness is, and it is everything. It is even greater than everything, because everything is stuff. There's something that's greater than all of the other somethings, right? So if you think of a set in math, right? If you do the counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to infinity, what are those numbers happening inside of? It's happening inside of a greater infinity, like a set. So what is like the infinity of all of the infinities, right? There are different sizes of infinities. You can look that up in about mathematics. There are different sizes of infinities. For example, the irrational numbers from 0 to 1, that's a greater infinity than all of the counting numbers from 1 to infinity. So there's different sizes of infinity. Now, what are all of these infinities happening inside of is the infinity of all infinities. Okay, this is an idea I learned from actualize.org. Now, this is the same with existence and consciousness. There's the ultimate consciousness, and that's what you are. So there's the small you and the big you. The small you is how you live your life, as, for example, me, Kyle. So Kyle is a small me. However, there is this huge, gigantic, infinite me that isn't just me. It is my nature, but it's equally your nature, because we are the same nature, right? It's oneness. So actually, I am you, right? Literally, I am you. Me, my big self, is the same. My big self is your big self. Okay, we look different as small selves, and we perceive ourselves as separate, right? But we're actually the same thing. There's only one thing, as Fred Davis says, there's one thing going on in a Southern accent. There's one thing going on. If it's oneness, oneness plus oneness equals oneness, right? So there's only one thing going on, like Fred Davis says. So, and that is just consciousness. And when there are events going on, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, as Rupert Spira says, that's equal to the unmanifested, meaning the nothingness version of consciousness. Now, the stuff comes out of this nothingness. So those are the two states. There's the nothingness state that goes on infinitely, and then there's stuff that is becoming more and more complex through evolution. And those are actually the same thing, paradoxically. So that's all I have for today. You can comment below, ask questions, like the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.